Good evening, and welcome to the fourth series of Introduction to Coaching Sports. My name is Dr. Thomas C. Reed, and I am one of the co-authors of the Introduction to Coaching Sports new textbook. Each week, I try to bring guest speakers on who have embraced the coaching profession and other stakeholders as well. And today, we are honored to have Don Klaas, a Hall of Fame coach. This man has accumulated so many wins, so many different awards and accolades, and I'm just really, really excited to have him on. And he's also a very good friend of mine, was also a mentor for me as I was coming up through the coaching ranks. And before I introduce Coach Klaas, I'll give you a little background about what he's accomplished as a basketball coach. He's been a head men's basketball coach at the College of DuPage for 35 years, but he's been coaching for a total of 43 years. He's also had stints at University of Wisconsin Platteville, University of Kentucky. He just has a plethora of experience. 12 times has his men's team has won the North Community College Conference Championship, 8 times the Section Region 4 Championship for Division III at College of DuPage for Division III, 7 times the State Region 4 Championship for Division III at the community college level. And these championships came as he was the head coach at the College of DuPage. His team won the national championship in 2001 and 2002 for Division III. He ranks first in career wins for the NJCAA Division III community college. He is the leader with wins, 8th in career wins in the NJCAA history. Ranks first in career wins for the NJCAA in the state of Illinois. Inducted into the Hall of Fame at the University of Wisconsin Platteville in 2000, Illinois Basketball Coaches Association in 2002, the NJCAA Basketball Coaches Association in 2003, and the Illinois Region Hall of Fame in 2007. For all of our listening audience, I'd like to welcome Mr. Don Klaas. Don, how you doing?
Good, Earl. Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to this.
And I am so glad and honored to have you on, my friend. Well, let's get right into this. The first question I asked is, I'll ask you is, what was your recruiting philosophy? In the book, Introduction to Coaching, I talk a little bit about recruiting and how important that is. And you and I have had, probably 100 conversations, probably more, about recruiting in general. You shared your ideologies with me and your philosophies with me. So what was your recruiting philosophy at the community college level? And for coaches that are listening to this, why is it important to either have a recruiting philosophy or anything that you could give them of the importance of recruiting at this level?
Well, anytime you're in the college level, and it doesn't matter if it's junior college or Division III, NCAA or NEI, or all the way up to 1, recruiting is it is the top duty that you have. Because if you don't get good athletes, you're just not going to win, because you win with good athletes and you get them together and do the things, that make them the best. My philosophy in recruiting, I knew how important it was, but then I just tried to go out and get the best basketball player I could. And I didn't even try to get the best athlete, because I've had many fine athletes that were only average basketball players. And obviously it's best if they're both really athletic and they have all the instincts of this great game. But so that was my philosophy. I tried to get the best player I could. Mm-hmm. And then once I had my team assembled, pretty much, by midsummer, end of summer, I had my team in order. And then I started figuring out, what is the system that we're going to use with them? I'm not one of these coaches that has a playing system offensively and defensively, and then my players have to adapt to that. I take the players that I have and then try to use them and use their strengths so that they have the best chance to succeed.
Mhm.
So, and for me at the community college level, I certainly tried to recruit locally, and I did. I saw so many high school games, like in DuPage County, where College of DuPage is. There's 30 plus high schools. I saw every senior play in DuPage. I didn't worry about recruiting underclassmen. I just went after seniors. I might send a letter or two or talk to a coach about younger players, but my recruiting was really, I zeroed in on seniors and tried to get them to, think about College of DuPage, or at least be aware of it. And it was very difficult, Earl, because kids don't grow up dreaming, and when they're playing high school ball, they don't dream about going to a junior college.
Right.
They dream about playing, at the highest level possible, and all of that. And so my job as a recruiter was to get them, hey, this junior college thing can be a really nice experience for you. And the thing I always told players, I said, out of high school, if you're getting what you want, then you should do it. Take it. If you got an offer from a college that this is what you want, go for it. That's the whole idea, because that's our idea at College of DuPage. And if you don't get what you want, that's when we can help you with your dreams. After a year or two with us, and I've coached hundreds of kids, Earl, and so many. I've had so many great athletes and such great kids, so many of them, and I don't know the exact percentage. It's very high. It's definitely above 80% that went on to four-year schools, and so I was very proud about that. And so the recruiting part was really getting kids to understand what they wanted, and then what we could do for them.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I did mention that I really tried to recruit locally. I did recruit out of the area, because if I was not getting the kind of players I needed, then I would go out of Chicago, and go into the Chicagoland area, and I'd use all my contacts, and including in Wisconsin and so on. So I know that most people think of junior colleges, why would you even recruit? Well, it's, if you want to win, if you want to have a great program, you've got to do that. And I understood that immediately.
Yeah, certainly. You have had an opportunity, and I know we've talked about this with the plethora of Coach of the Year awards that you've had. So many to mention, that the region, national Coach of the Year, conference Coach of the Year. And I know you've had an opportunity to move on to maybe coach at a higher level, but for whatever reason, you chose to stay at the community college level. For a coach out there that's searching, why did you stay at the community college level? And if you want to share maybe any pros and cons of coaching at the community college level. I know you were extremely fortunate, and I was too, because I was at the same college that you were, and we were at a very outstanding community college that had great financial resources and great facilities. But what's your position on that, as far as why you stayed at the community college level when you had an opportunity to coach at so many other levels?
Well, it all started with when I was a teenager. I knew I wanted to do something in athletics, and I wanted to coach. But I also realized that things don't always work out exactly the way you want. But I knew I was going to do something in the athletic field. I have a degree in English. I always wrote for my school papers, high school and college, as a sports person. I thought, if I don't like this coaching thing, I'll get into that aspect of it, because I'd like to write. But so growing up, I really thought high school, I'll teach in high school and coach. Mm-hmm. And as a senior in college at UW Platteville, I just thought, I would really like to get my master's degree and get that completed before I even start coaching, because I saw a lot of other coaches, they'd spend all their, a bunch of summers doing that. And I just thought, I have this opportunity. So I wrote to a bunch of schools. I ended up with a grad assistantship at the University of Kentucky. And one I tasted the college age kid teaching, and I didn't really coach it at Kentucky. I got to be very good friends with Joe B. Hall when he was the freshman coach. Adolph Rupp was the head coach, of course, and this is back in 1969, so it's it's so many years ago. But when I tasted all of that, the teaching and the recruiting, and I just thought, I think this is what I want. And then when I ended up getting my master's, I had some real nice high school offers, and then I had the only college offer I had was from Penn State McKeesport, a 2-year school in near Pittsburgh, and I really struggled with it a little bit because my family's from the Midwest. But anyway, I thought, man, the college level, I like that so much. And then also, Penn State McKeesport their plan was to go to 4-year school, and I thought, wow, I'll be 23 years old, and I might have a situation to coach at a 4-year school. So the experience at Kentucky taught me what I wanted to do. It through that experience. So then that was a really tough situation. I helped start the program there. We didn't win much, the first couple of years, and then once I got the program going with recruiting and everything, then we did start to win. And then I had an opportunity. My wife Peggy was having a baby, our first son, and I thought, I don't want to be this far away from family. So we moved to the Midwest, and that's when I went to the University of Wisconsin-Richland. And I had 3 great years there, the teaching and the coaching, and I had so many good players. And then this College of DuPage thing came along, and they were Dick Walters, who went from College of DuPage to Evansville, really, in that Division I program. I thought, wow, this would be quite a jump, and I took it, and I loved it. And in fact, after my first year there, we went 30-4 and were runner up in the state tournament. But I was offered a real nice job after 1 year. I had just purchased a house. We just had a second child, a second boy, and I just thought, there'll be other opportunities. So I stayed. And the same thing, Earl. College of DuPage, when I was, when I went there, their thought was we could be going 4 years. So it was, again, that kind of thing. And there's a little bit of pride there. I mean, again, just as players don't grow up thinking about playing at junior colleges, I never grew up thinking I coach at a junior college. But with my experiences, I so enjoyed it. Many of my friends in the coaching field, how can you coach at a junior college? You get such a turnover. And I said, I love that. Every year is so new and so refreshing. I get to influence all these kids. I get to take all these pieces of the puzzle and try to put them together. And that's what I did. And I really enjoyed it. And I had, in my first few years at COD, at College of DuPage, I had a few different offers to go. And then I got thinking, I have a pretty nice life. I'm married. I have 3 kids now. I get to raise them. and I started thinking that way, family wise, rather than the coaching field, because I certainly could have moved up on the ladder, but I was so comfortable, and College of DuPage was, with such great facilities and great people. I just thought, this is, unless something really, comes along, this is what I want. And that's why I stayed there for 35 years. And it was the right decision for me.
That's great. That's such valuable information to give, the coaches who are listening. Your philosophically, family was really important. And I think it is in this profession, in any profession. And I know we've talked about that, and I know how important, family is to you. And it was good for me to understand that. And the many coaches that you have mentored, how important family is. Don, over your 43 years of coaching, I know that you have seen a plethora of paradigm shifts, and to be able to do this thing for 43 years is amazing, and to do it with the success that you've had over those paradigm shifts as far as recruiting is concerned. How did you change? what was it that allowed you to be able to look at recruiting and continue to be successful? What happened? What tips or strategies could you give, just regarding that shift over the 43 years? That's really amazing. One, that you did it for that long.
Yeah, the in the recruiting process, obviously you have to look at the talent, but then also a big part of recruiting is finding out what kind of kid this is.
Mhm.
Is this the kind of kid that will succeed in your program? What are his attitudes and all, the way he thinks about basketball in school and all of that. So during the recruiting process, as much as I could, I mean, I can't diminish that, I wanted good players because I wasn't going to succeed without them. But it was really important to me to find out about a kid. And I tried to do that. And there were a few that I stopped recruiting because I found out that this kid might not have a chance to succeed in my program.
Mhm.
So I tried to evaluate the talent and then the physical attitude, or I mean, not only the physical attributes, but the attitude mentally, and is school really important? In fact, what I did for every kid that played for me, they had to sign an education contract. And I wanted them to know my feelings about all kinds of things, but especially school. And the top of the list, the number one thing was, I'm at College of DuPage. I'm at school to get an education.
Mhm.
And not only did I make them sign that, I mean, we did grade checks on it. You did as well. I mean, all college coaches do that. But I made sure that this kid, this was really important to him. The school basketball should be important, but it should be the most important thing. He's there to get an education. And as many kids think, well, I'm going to go to the NBA or I'm going to make a living at it. That's pretty near impossible. Hey, it's a great dream, and never give up on that dream, but you better, by gosh, have a second plan that if you don't make it, that you can go into something else. And in
Right.
fact, I have an example of that. And this is many years ago. I had just a really, really good player, about 6'4", 6'5". And I mean, he was my best player by far. And he had signed the contract and all that. And when I was doing my grade checks, he hadn't been in school for like a week and a half. So when he came to practice that day, and this is 2 weeks before the first game, and he was our starter, and we were building around him, and and all of that. And when he came to practice, I said, "You're suspended." And he says, "What? Why?" And I says, "You haven't been to school for a week and a half." I talked to his teachers, and they told me, he got off to a good start, but then he kind of lost interest or whatever the reason he wasn't coming. And I said, "So you're suspended. Well, let me at least play, till Christmas. I'm eligible to that." I says, "I don't do that." I says, "I truly, if you're not here for the education, then this is not how I run my program. I'd like to win, but we're going to win with proper things in order. And if you're not going to school, you're not playing here." And I did tell him this. And by the way, it was a very nice conversation. It was calm. It lasted about, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 minutes. But I said to him, "Here's the deal. You cannot practice. I don't want you coming near us. You take care of business in the classroom. And in a couple weeks, when I contact these teachers, if you're doing well, if you're back at it and you show that you have, this education interest, I'll let you back." And there's no timeline. I'm not worrying about a game you might play in or not play in. I said, that's how it's going to be. Well, the kid ended up quitting school, and I felt bad about that. But one of the things, along with the education contract, Earl, I always told kids, if this school thing isn't for you, go learn a trade.
Mhm.
Go to a tech school, or do something that can be important to you in your life. Where do you want to be 5 years from now? Where do you want to be 10 years from now? Well, I lost contact with the kid. And then it was about 10 years later, he came to one of my open gyms. And he came up, gave me a great big hug. And I mean, he looked great. I mean, he still was a young man and he could really play. And he says, Coach, he says, I know you'll be proud of me. He says, I took your advice. I went and learned a trade. I'm now an electrician. I'm married, have 2 kids, and things are in order for me. And thank you for promoting that kind of thing in my life. And Earl, it gave me the chills when I talked to this young man, and he realized that basketball wasn't the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a few stories like that, but this education thing was huge. Now, in terms of recruiting kids and over all the years, I don't know, even though I was a head junior college coach for 43 years, it was always about get the best kid you can.
Yeah.
And then once, I had a class, a conditioning class, but a big part of it was I wanted these athletes to know who I was and what I thought about things. And we had classroom every single day before the season started. I don't know, 6-7 weeks, whatever it was. And I had handouts on basically every topic. Some were basketball, some were life philosophy. I mean, I wanted them, I had such a short time for them to get to know me. And like in high school, if you're a high school coach, you have your freshmen and sophomores, and you know about these kids as they come into your varsity program, as juniors or seniors, or even if they come in younger. Well, I had to find all this stuff out in like 5 or 6 weeks or so. Could I tell immediately who the best athlete or the best basketball players were and all of that? Absolutely. That's easy. Anybody can do that, or most coaches can do that. But you have to find out more what's in their heart. And I got to tell you this, in 43 years as a head junior college coach, I never started the 5 most talented athletes, not once. It was always about all these other things that make a difference. Of course, they have to be talented. They have to view things, unselfishly. What are we doing defensively, and how can I help? What are we doing offensively, and how can I contribute that way? And it was when someone asked me, "Oh, you had great athletes all the time," I said, and then I came up with, I said that statement that I never started the 5 best athletes. I've had some great athletes that didn't play much because they weren't basketball players. I would keep a kid like that, hoping that he could develop. But over the years, that was a real important thing to me to find. I wanted these kids to know who I was, because it's not easy to play for me. I'm very demanding. I get after kids, and it doesn't matter if you're the best player or the last, player on the team. I'm going to treat you the same, or at least I'm going to treat you fairly. I always did tell kids this, Earl. I says, I do have my favorite players. You will see that I have my favorite players. They're the kind of kids that come to practice every day. They bring great energy. They're on time. They have it all that help our program and help themselves. Those are my favorite players, right. And including a high basketball IQ, which we promoted constantly. So I always thought that was a really critical part of my coaching and getting kids, to know me. Now, was it always real easy? No, I've had plenty of problems with kids, but then I would just try to bring them along. And I have many examples. I mean, were there kids that quit? Sure. That happens in any program. Hey, this program isn't for me. I get that. And then I'd help them go elsewhere. It wasn't an anger thing or anything like that. If you don't think this is good, then you can move on. But the whole business of attitude is so critical, and that was a huge part of, I think, of the success that I've had.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned you gave that one example of the young man, and I'm kind of curious to see how the other players reacted, when they knew that Coach Klaas is getting rid of this guy because he's not doing what he needed to do educationally. And I know that that's something that you preached and to all of your athletes coming in. And this is kind of a good lead in to, the next question, and you kind of answered it. But how did you get this buy-in? There's something from your athletes, and maybe it was a lot of those things that you mentioned, that the light came on for your athletes, those who had an opportunity to play for you for 2 years, to say, hey man, this coach is about, he's got a holistic perspective about this basketball and education and life. How did you get that buy-in from your student athletes over the years? What was it that you did? What was it about you that made them stay in the program? And then just, I just go back to the success, man. That's something special. And I think any coach would attest to that. What did you do? What philosophically, how did you put all that together?
Because when I talk with a kid, when I was coaching a kid, it was never just basketball. Not ever. When we're on the floor on a drill or whatever we were doing, of course it was then. But outside of that, I tried to relate everything to that kid's life and where he was heading and how to succeed and, how to get the best of what he has to offer. And in a job, in a family, all of that kid. I'll give you an example. I had a great player. I've had so many. I've had 20 plus All-Americans, but this guy was a 5'10" guard. And it was one of the early days in I think it was after a couple of weeks of practice, and he was our starting point guard. He was so talented, and we got him. He was a scholarship player, and we were, and you have to be lucky. We got lucky getting this kid, with the way his mom is in the air and all. And anyway, he was from Southern Illinois, and the family moved, and so we ended up with him. Anyway, this happened in a drill or in a half court work. I said something to the player, and he turned his back on me, and I can't allow that. So I walked over to him, and I didn't scream or holler or anything like that. I walked over to him and I just said, why do you think I just said what I said to you? Because I'm trying to help you become the best player you can be. I can help you you're a really good player, but I can help you be a better player. And I says, but you and I have to be on the same team. What are you going to do down the road? You're in a business. And by the way, I did take a couple minutes where practice stopped, and I spoke to this kid. It was just he and I don't think any other players would have been able to hear much because it was a quiet conversation, but it was just too important. And I think the kid bought in then. He bought in that, for this thing to work, it's not just about me. This is about coach. This is about other players. I talk so much about being the best teammate you can be. How would you like if a teammate didn't hustle? How would you like if a teammate didn't have a great attitude and complained all the time? And so kids, I would use those kind of examples every day. And so the answer is, it wasn't just basketball that I was teaching. I truly tried to teach life skills, philosophy, how to succeed, those kind of things that I think can really help a kid.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you had, and I want to give you an opportunity, if you had one thing, and I know that there are many things that you could give coaches, student athletes, and I'm not just talking about basketball coaches, but just coaches in general with, all your experience and all your success. What would be one thing that you would convey to someone getting into this profession, this coaching profession? With your experience, what would be something that you would, tell coaches prior to embracing, this coaching thing? What would it be?
I would, and I, as a real young coach, I don't know if I did this early. It happened after I had been a head coach for at least a couple of 3 years or whatever it was. But I thought one of my really important jobs is to evaluate players. What does this player bring to me? And I know plenty of coaches that I mean, of course they evaluate, everybody evaluates and judges and all that, and this is, I think, for me, and why I was able to have a little success is I really, and my main defense was man-to-man for most of my life, my coaching. And if you ask many coaches, oh no, he had the 1-3-1. that came later. And it came later because of all the great quickness that we played against. And I wanted to make, I wanted to make some changes. And so we ended up, we played a variety of defenses. And I know coaches says, no, you can only play one grade. I disagree with that. I man to man, you have to know how to do that. But I was able to add the others. And I think we won a lot of games because we made adjustments. And I'll give you an example. We were playing a team out of the city, Chicago, and they were outstanding. And they were so good. They had us by 10 with about 5 minutes to play in the game. And I had a great team. We ended up 31-3 that year. So it wasn't like, and I mean, we were outstanding as well as this other team, but they were beating us. They were big and strong and just everything. And we took a timeout and we switched. Had been playing man and we switched to a 2-3 zone. And we were, I mean, you can't ever do something in a game that you can't, that you wouldn't, do. And you have to do it in practice to do it in a game. Anyway, we went to it and early didn't score. We scored 11 straight points. They didn't score. We won by 1, beat a team that hardly had lost. I don't remember their record, but it was, I'd like to think in terms of making a little bit of a change that might make a difference in a game. I always thought of basketball defense and basketball in general like a baseball pitcher. If you have one pitch, then I'm going to look for it. And so I always thought if you have a couple little different angles, maybe you can keep the other team off balance. And I think that we tried to do that. So I would offer to coaches, learn the game, follow your passion, learn to evaluate players. I really believe in my heart, if you have just one system, that you're not going to get the best out of some of your kids. Now, the top coaches, they can recruit, and they have a system. They recruit kids that fit that system because they know they're going to get great players every year. But in my level, in the lower levels, if you're coaching football, if you're a passing coach, but you don't have a quarterback that can throw it, you better have a running game. You can't force it on kids. And
Right.
That was the other thing. So, I mean, not only the evaluation, teach kids role playing. Role playing is really, really hard in basketball. Easier in some of the other sports, really hard in basketball, I have found in my experience. And I tried to teach kids that kind of thing as well.
Well, Don, this has been an outstanding session. I know that there are so many viewers who will take what you've given and hopefully be able to use it as they embrace their teams, whatever teams. I mean, I know we talked a lot about basketball, but you gave such great examples and explanations that could be used in any coaching arena. And I really want to thank you for taking the time to do this and be a part of this. Our friendship goes a very, very long way. And I know your family, and I'll go on the record to say this, and I've always said this, that Don's daughter was played point guard for me when I coached at the College of DuPage. And I'm saying this because he trained her up in her younger years, the best point guard I've ever had. And I've had some very good point guards, both men and women. And I want to thank you for allowing me and trusting me to coach your daughter, who is obviously an All-American and all everything. But all of that was just definitely an offset of what you instilled in her, and with all your kids. All your kids were great athletes, but that will always be special to me in my heart, that you trusted me for 2 years to coach Allie, and that was great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Tell the family I said hello, and hopefully
And you do the same, Earl.
Will do.
I miss you. I love you, man. I'm happy for you with the podcast system you have and the book that you have out now. And I wish you the best.
I thank you.
God
Thank you,
bless
Don. And I'll be in contact. We'll talk soon. For those of you who are interested in getting the Introduction to Coaching sports book. It is available on Barnes and Nobles. It's available at amazon.com. It's also available on Google Play. And again, we want to thank Coach Klaas for taking the time. And I will be in contact, my friend. Thank you so much.
Okay.